Hello, my crafty friends. This is Lori, Girl on the Ridge. I have another junk journal that I just finished. This is a traveler's notebook style. It is 8 3/4 by 5. It has a seam binding closure. It's very thick. It has 80 pages front to back. I used some material that I had gotten from Walmart. I shared that on Junk Journal Junkies. It's pretty pink. And vintage. This is very old handkerchief that I cut the corners off. And there's vintage lace. This is a flower I'd made out of vintage wedding dress, buttons and lace. And the back is just a cardstock paper I Mod Podge, and it's kind of a corally kind. I don't know if it's showing up. This this little girl's Kaley. And this is about her and Juliette. Her dad is I'm getting the right language. Her papa is a earl. He has to leave for America, and he needs to leave Kaley with a family member, and all that is left, because Kaley's mom died in childbirth, was her mom's second cousin's daughter's daughter, Juliette, who owns she's a seamstress, and she has her own dress shop in Paris. So she's going to bring Kaley over for about roughly 3 months. And this little girl doesn't want nothing to do with it, because she doesn't want anybody to come in between her and her papa. So as we go in, this is a bunch of everything. I found some pretty, I think these are Pinterest. They matched the material perfect, and I just made a couple tags and sewing and the cheesecloth in there. All the paper's been coffee dyed. Lots of lace, vintage, Hobby Lobby, a little of everything. Coffee filter, ruffle that I made. And there's a lot of ledger paper in here because Juliette keeps her books, so she has to keep track of everything. She lives right in the dress shop in the back, and with a really pretty garden. Soon as Kaley came there, she dumped her tea all over poor Juliette's paperwork. So there was a stamp I haven't used in a while. And there comes a big plane. And I just did some flip ups. And here's a bag. Juliette thought that Kaley would like to play with some buttons, and she pretty much threw them all over the place and mixed them all up. So she wasn't taking too kindly to Juliette right yet. And again, she would just spill her tea and just be very 9-year-old. This is a tag that Juliette would probably put orders in of her dresses she would make for the Dukes and Earls, wives and girlfriends and sisters. And there's just buttons and a lot of little bulb pins and more of Kaley's handiwork. And ruffles. And Juliette does have a pretty garden in the back of wildflowers that she tries to get Kaley involved in. This is a postcard I made with just paper clip on it, a little booklet, and I did some stamping with a doily. And just some stenciling. And this is a piece of lace that Juliette made for a Earl's sister. And it was blue satin with that pretty lace on it. So she had a little left over, so she just stuck it in here. And more of little Kaley's hand. She would think when ladies would come to the shop that they'd be always talking about her, which they weren't, but she was not happy. Here's a little book that Juliette would maybe write notes in of a color that she wants to purchase to make a dress. And these are for her needles. This is Artie Mays. And a lot of sewing in there. This is the wildflower garden in the back. And some more, just some index cards and a flip down. Like I said, she has a lot of customers, so she has to keep track of. And some more tags that I just cut down and put some buttons on it. And again, more postcards that she's going to be writing to the Duke the Earl very soon. And here, Kaley came in. She was mad, so she grabbed some of Juliette's lace with her muddy hands. So she got it all muddy, which is just coffee. It's just inked up. There's this little pocket in there. And poor Juliette is just at her wit's end, so she was going to sit down and pen a letter saying just isn't working out. And then she would see a little bluebird, and she would hear her mama's words, "Oh, my sweet Juliette, have patience, my dear." So she would get her second wind. Those little bluebirds are very powerful. And there's just some pretty flowers that they picked for the kitchen table. And Kaley would eventually come around. And this is a little pretty envelope, because she never gave up on her. And Kaley would realize that. And there's some more pretty lace. And some more sums that she would have to do to keep track of her customers. And some more of the pretty Artie Mays and a flip up. And she was still a little handful. She was still trying to make Juliette mad is what she was trying to do. It's just some pretty lace. And just a little note card in an envelope. And then there's a note in there that she's going to actually write to Kaley and give it to her in the future of what a little handful she was. And this is a envelope that I made with a die cut of the scissors and some buttons and a little order form and some little paper in there on a index card. I was having fun making all these. More pretty lace and another guest check from Crafty Irina, but to take dress orders. And more ledger paper with some more writing. There's a lot of writing spots in here. And more little... She would keep her seeds in there for the following year. This was a piece of lace that she had made a dress of, and she had a little left over. And some more buttons. And there's a really pretty copper metallic... I don't know if you can see it. Thread that I use. It's kind of very rough, but it was kind of neat. So I just stuck them in there. Eventually she made a beautiful dress for little Kaley, and she was all happy about it. And some more ledger paper. I love the green of the ledger paper. And this was part of the dress that she made for Kaley. And some postcards that they had gotten from her papa. So she thought, I think she was feeling abandoned. And then when, of course, Papa came and fell in love with Juliette. And you all know the rest of that story. And some more pretty scissors and more tags. And more pretty buttons. Another little letter. I think this is Tsunami Rose. And this will flip up. And some more paper. Little Tiffany. No more ink spots. This is a little pretty, this was another little dress that she had made for Kaley. For Sunday. That would be so fun. And some more pretty lace. And another piece of, this was just in my stash. Got up pictures like an old catalog. So this will be on my Etsy. There's some more paper. Pockets. And there's Juliette and the Duke or Earl. And Kaley's all happy. She's got a mama and a papa again. And that is it. So I have another, let's see, my next one is, actually this is really chunky. I have to sew her in yet. This is Chantel. And like I said, this is a big one. And hopefully I will do this very shortly. So you guys all have a wonderful Sunday, and we'll see you soon.